feet space, and Nakumatt Holdings Administrator Peter Kahi said the return is symbolic of the firm's commitment to return to a formidable retail player. On the ground floor, Nakumatt Mega is stocking a range of non-food items, and preparatory works are ongoing at the store's other levels that will house the food and general home commodities section. Now, it's scheduled for opening within the next 2 weeks. Earlier this year, Nakumatt Holdings announced that it had embarked on a business recovery program dubbed Nakumatt Bounce Back. Tenants were ordered out of the mega branch in September after Nakumatt said its lease was due to expire. Like I said, we will be joined by way of Skype by Jacques Nel, who is the chief economist at NKB Africa Economics, and he'll be telling us more about the quarterly report that they've released when it comes to African economies and how we're faring not just as a country, but of course as a continent as well. Some key findings there that he'll break down for us. But before we get to that, let's take a look at what's happening with Java. Now, Java House Group yesterday launched its 62nd branch in East Africa at Engen Parklands. This is in line with the group's robust expansion plan regionally and internationally. The move comes after Java House recently opened its latest express model innovation at the Nairobi Hospital. In attendance was Java CEO Paul Smith and Engen Kenya MD Hassan Zalkonga. Now, early January, Java will be opening its second branch in Rwanda after opening its first 360 degrees pizza in Rwanda outlet over the past week. Well, customers will now be able to borrow, repay and borrow again from KCB-MPESA on the same day, open a target savings account and top up the same day. KCB-MPESA customers will now enjoy more borrowing and saving options as well as faster transaction speeds. This follows a successful migration of the offering to a new and more robust platform. KCB Bank Kenya has said in a move that will allow KCB-MPESA to move larger volumes as well. Take a look.
Every single second you can process a loan in our market. It took a lot of time. Even for us as an institution, it has changed the profile of our portfolio. We will lend in a year perhaps 100,000 customers usually in the normal year. But we are now lending close to 10 million loans in a year on the mobile. This is 10x, almost 100x. If you think about the possibilities of transformation, you can see, and I like numbers because they can tell about the possibilities. What we are launching today are just 3 main changes in our products. So traditionally, a customer had to borrow. There was a limit. You borrow once, you pay, and you have to pay within 30 days. So one of the new changes we're unveiling today is that you can now roll forward. You call it rollover. In a banking language, you say you can roll forward your loan.
All right, once again, I want to remind you of our Twitter poll question today. Do you know what the Green Bond Program entails? Tell us on Twitter at KTN Kenya, at Malika Kazia, with that hashtag KTN Business. Let us know what your thoughts are on that. Of course, once again, do you know what the Green Bond Program entails? Tell us on Twitter, and we're going to be having that conversation right here on the show. All right, well, of course, as promised, I'm talking to Jacques Nel, the Chief Economist for South and East Africa from NKC Africa Economies. And Jacques, I'm hoping that you can hear me, and kindly just let me know if you are available now and you can hear me.
Good afternoon, I can hear you clearly, thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, of course, I do know that the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales has recently released its Economic Insights report, and it details how in this quarter, we're looking at African economies and how we're faring. So it did note that East Africa continues to see the highest GDP growth on the continent, even though the region's economic growth is expected to ease slightly. And to what factors can we attribute this sort of positive growth that we're seeing, Jacques?
Yes, East African economies are a lot more diversified than their peers in the rest of the continent. So this means they're not as dependent on commodities, so they haven't suffered due to the commodity slump. And also, the region's also benefiting from some favorable demographics. A youthful population with increasing disposable income, supporting the services sectors, while agriculture has also, of course, played a role here. After quite a hard 2015 and 16, agricultural growth has improved, and this has had positive spillover effects into numerous other sectors of the economy.
Right, Jacques, and another thing that the report particularly touched on was the role of political stability in the growth of the East African economies come 2019. So what have your findings suggested so far when it comes to that particular section?
Yes, political risk normally comes to the fore during election periods, as election periods are normally associated with uncertainty, and we don't have any elections scheduled in East Africa for next year. So in general, we expect political stability to be maintained. There's a lot of, well, most of the governments are quite stable, and but that doesn't mean that politics won't matter next year, as politics are normally a source of downside risk. In this sense, Tanzania is an interesting country, as their political environment has been a bit combative when dealing with big investors. So this could scare off some of the bigger foreign investors, while some of their new policies have also had a bad impact on their relations with donors, which will, of course, have a negative impact on their fiscal balances and just business sentiment in general.
Okay, Jacques, and also the growth rate for Kenya specifically, the report noted was at 5.4%. So what are some of the biggest challenges that we as a country need to overcome in order to keep this margin as well as grow faster?
One of Kenya's struggles in recent years has been the country's fiscal position, and this was also a big sticking point with negotiations with the IMF, and is in fact the key reason why a follow-up IMF program wasn't established. But that being said, this is President Kenyatta's legacy term, his final term in office, meaning he'll be a lot more motivated to build on his legacy, and the current Big Four program does seem a lot more focused than previous development programs. So we could see some positive developments on the fiscal side, supporting growth, while also in general, as I mentioned, for East Africa as a whole, favorable demographics and the expansion of services, these factors will still continue to be in place and support growth this year just as they did, or next year just as they did this year.
Okay, and if we move away from specifically Kenya and we look at DRC, the elections that are scheduled to take place in the next few days, we have seen, of course, it repeatedly postponed since November 2016. The report did cite that GDP growth forecast of 4.1% there this year when it comes to DRC. How far do you see the elections impacting this figure in Congo?
That is a very difficult question because we don't know what's going to happen in the elections. It might be a tight race, even though we do expect the economy in general to still be driven by the mining sector, which has proven quite resilient against whatever happens in the political environment. So to be honest, it's difficult. We don't know how the elections are going to pan out and if it's going to result in some political instability after elections. But as I said, the economy remains by the mining sector, which has proven quite resilient in recent years.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Jacques, there and shedding some light on this particular, report that we have seen when it comes to African economies, the growth that is expected and that you have seen. As we wrap up quickly, some of your final words on the particular report in general and what was noted that was the greatest challenges that as a continent we need to address.
Yes, as the report finds, growth is expected to slump in a few countries, largely due to their commodity dependence, but there are some bright spots in East Africa and the Franc zone. In terms of what these economies can do, I think recently a lot of them have been forced to focus on their policies to create policies that are more conducive to diverse economic growth. And a lot of these countries will be forced to continue to work on their policy environments, which is, of course, positive for the continent as a whole.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was Jacques Nel. Much appreciated for your insights there. He is the chief economist for South and East Africa, NKC Africa Economies. Once again, I'd like to, tell you of our Twitter poll question today. And that, of course, is, do you know what the Green Bond Program entails? At Malika Kazia at KTN Kenya is how you let us know. And that hashtag is KTN Business. We're going to be having that discussion on the Green Bond Program right here on the show for you to expound on it, to explain what exactly this means for the country and what already we know about it and how it's operating thus far. So do let us know your thoughts on Twitter.